How do you, folks? You happen to have 5 minutes to kill?
Pardon me?
Do you happen to have 5 minutes? I'm doing interviews with random people for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah?
Who's we?
I'm sorry?
Who's we?
I do.
Yeah, what's it for?
Oh, it's a hobby. So what I do is I talk to people about a belief that they hold. It can be really anything. You get to pick it. And then I just ask questions to uncover how you came about, how you came about having the belief and the method you use to conclude that it's true. And then, it's like just 5 minutes. And then a lot of times people will leave with a better understanding of why they believe what they believe. And some people are more confident when they leave. Some people are less confident, and some people don't change. So it's pretty fun. You guys want to give it a try?
Sure.
Okay. So having two people can be a little tricky because sometimes your answers will affect each other. So just try during the process to come up with your own conclusion or your own response, and don't let it affect the other person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys okay if I record it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. My name's Eddie, by the way.
Hi, I'm Dan.
Dan?
And Terri.
Terri.
Yeah.
Okay. Dan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Terri. How do you spell that?
E-R-R-I.
Okay, I figured. Okay. So, it might be a little tricky, so I guess we need to decide on a belief or a topic, I guess. I can shoot out some examples, but you guys can really just go anywhere you'd like. So I think typically the conversations are more interesting if it's something that you believe that kind of affects your life. If you didn't have the belief, you would live your life differently, or it'd affect your actions in some way. Those conversations are more interesting, but it can be really whatever you like. You guys want me to shoot out topics? Do you already have something in mind?
I have something in mind, but you can shoot out topics.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead and shoot out topics. I'm kind of curious.
So, some typical topics would be like, I believe karma is happening. I believe my zodiac signs are accurate, and they're accurate. They predict, my characteristics and stuff like that. Or I believe prayer works. I believe in aliens. I just had that conversation. That was interesting. I believe in a God. I believe I saw a ghost. I don't know if I covered that one. I've had so many different topics. Like one person talked about yin and yang, like how that works. Difficult, so it's interesting stuff. So, but you guys can pick whatever it is.
Okay. What's your name? You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I believe service enriches your soul.
Service enriches your soul. Okay. I've never had that one, so that's good. Okay. So.
And how are you defining soul?
Wait, are you asking the questions or he?
Yeah, he can get the camera. No, I was kidding. Okay, so I want to get a sense of your confidence in this belief from like 0 to 100. Where do you think? How confident would you be that service enriches the soul?
Pretty confident. Like I guess
100. 100%?
Yeah.
No questions. You're absolutely true.
Yeah.
Or absolutely sure.
Yeah.
Okay. What is the main reason you're 100% confident?
Well, I think it would probably have to be because through what I've experienced in service, you're typically thinking of other people or thinking of a cause or doing something positive, doing something good for someone else other than yourself. And I think that helps you to kind of get outside your own selfish focus to a broader outside of yourself.
Okay.
And that is enriching to me, because you're still, you still feel like you're doing good, but it's not for selfish reasons. It's not because you want to look good or any of that kind of stuff, but to provide some sort of service to someone else or some other thing, and that it enriches you personally and enriches your soul or your spirit, because I kind of feel like that's what God put us here for.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat back what you said, and just let me know if I'm understanding it correctly.
Okay.
That you're 100% confident that service enriches your soul because the selfish sort of desire, or selfish, what you can do for yourself is very limited, and when you reach out and do something for someone else, it increases your capacity for an enriched life.
Yeah.
You can't do it yourself. This happiness or this joy or purpose, I guess you would say, is beyond something you can do by yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What would you? And I'm sorry. And the main reason you're confident is personal experience, because you personally had this happen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If someone else were to have a different experience, let's say that they had service, or they gave service, and they maybe didn't have the same type of experience, how would we go about determining
The difference?
which one of you was more accurate in their belief?
Oh, well, I think you could probably go about service through obligation, and then it becomes, and then it's more like you're doing something because you have to. If it's an obligation, or you feel like it's, what's a way of putting it? It's no longer enriching your soul per se, because if you feel like it's, and I don't want to use the word obligation because there's nothing wrong with obligation, and you don't necessarily always, but if you start to feel resentful, then it's no longer enriching your soul.
Okay. Is it possible for someone to give service without any resentment and with clear intent? Is it possible for them to not have an enriched soul?
I don't see how.
Like if you met somebody that, maybe tried it and just had some bad experiences or anything like that, would that decrease your confidence that it could enrich the soul?
Not for me. I would think that it's a different kind of service than if it's not, there's a sense of resentfulness than on that other person's part, and that's not the same as what I'm thinking.
Okay, so you're saying that if someone didn't get getting fulfillment out of that and it wasn't enriching, then they probably aren't doing it correctly, and they're doing it out of some sort of obligation.
Well, a selfish manner.
Yeah.
So there's an old expression that says, no good deed goes unpunished. I think all of us have experienced times where we've gone out of our way to help someone else, and somehow it's backfired. I mean, I've had that happen multiple times in my life, probably 100 times. But it doesn't bother me, because my motivation isn't to get thanks, positive feedback, financial gain, or anything else.
Mm.
Okay, so if I'm not expressing this
No, that's right. Go
correctly,
ahead.
Yeah.
if you are giving of yourself selflessly, and you don't have a conscious or subconscious ulterior motive of there needs to be
Getting
some
something in return.
Right.
personal gain, a thanks, a kudos, participation medal, or something like that, you're never going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But as long as you have strings attached that go back to your selfish, sinful nature, you can be disappointed time and time again.
Yeah.
But it
'cause there's
doesn't
a
undermine
hint
at
of
all what
expectation.
she's saying in terms of if you give of yourself freely, that you can't lose.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about not losing anything if you're not expecting anything in return.
No, it's not a matter of expectation. It's a matter
Yeah.
of motivation.
Okay.
Okay? So when we stop to do this survey, it's not something that's important to us. We don't blog. Our opinion, having other people hear our opinions is not important. It's one of the reasons I asked early on, what is this for? And you said, well, it's a hobby for you. So it's like, okay, well, we will take the time for you, a perfect stranger who has an interest in doing this.
Yeah.
And we're here now taking our time for your benefit or whatever. And we don't and we're not doing it because we're going to get
Are you
a
blog
cute,
about this?
we're not going to get a coupon at Starbucks or anything
Right.
else.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you asked and we said, okay.
I would hope you'd enjoy the conversation a little bit. Maybe there's something in there for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
that's
like
not the
your
but
analogy
that's
of
not the
we're not
motivation.
getting a coupon or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not getting a reward somehow by, yeah.
Let me ask it a different way. What would you have to experience? And this is like a hypothetical. What would you have to experience that to, decrease your confidence to like 90% confident in that? Like, is there anything that you could experience that would cause you to be less confident?
I still feel like, unselfish service is enriching, but when, say for example, it's like falls on deaf ears or nothing seems to, so it's disappointing. Okay, for example, and you can fill in here, honey, any place, jump in here, but say like with all the work I did with juvenile services, and yet I feel like it wasn't really, it's not like the whole idea of what I was attempting to try to do was absorbed or even taken in.
Well, that experience was a disappointment for you.
Yeah.
It didn't work
Yeah.
out the way you wanted. This
Yeah.
is something you thought about for a long time
Yeah.
and invested a lot of time in.
Yeah.
It does nothing to diminish your belief that service is a good thing, that's an absolute win.
I think
That doesn't
I know what
mean
you're
that there
saying.
can't be personal disappointment
Yeah.
when your efforts
Yeah.
are not well received or when they fail. So as an example,
I understand what you're
if
saying.
someone were to be calling out for help in that stream down there, let's assume in a big rain, and I rush down to try to save someone who's drowning, if my efforts failed and they drowned in spite of my efforts, I would feel sad about that. But it would do nothing to disrupt my belief that I need to give of myself to others in need. It would do nothing to lower that 100% to 90%.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah.
that the efforts, okay, and a lot of it comes back again to how you're motivated, okay? I don't have a problem with someone giving, pick a number, a gajillion dollars to TJC and having their name put on a building as a legacy. But I would never do that even if I had a gajillion dollars to give to TJC. I don't want my name on a building. That's not my
You-
motivation.
You'd give to TJC, but don't want your name on the
Oh,
bill.
I
That's what
do
we
it totally
Yeah.
anonymously
Yeah.
because it's about the giving and not the recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I understand what you were saying is that even it could be it could be a little disappointing when you are trying to make an impact and it either didn't or had the opposite effect. That could be disheartening, but ultimately knowing that you tried,
Yeah.
that enriches the soul.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm going to keep trying. It might be someplace else.
Yeah.
I'm going to try. If I think it's a worthy effort.
Yeah. What would you say to someone that, despite not having any resentment and had the right motivations about service, but just maybe didn't get sort of fulfillment from it? Like it's not necessarily about they care about the impact they make. They don't necessarily care if it works or not. They do the service, but they don't get the fulfillment, or maybe not as much.
Yeah.
Would that realization that there was someone like that didn't get as much fulfillment from it, even if they did those steps, had the right motivations and didn't have any stakes in the game, I guess, would that lower your confidence that maybe for some other people it's not the same? Or
I don't know how it could, because the way you described it, this other person may not get as much out of it as Terri, but that still implies they got something out of it, that there was a positive benefit. And so while you and I could do the exact service thing for another person, and you get more of a sense of well-being out of it than I, doesn't discredit the fact
you got it.
that I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I got as much, and if we turned around and did just the same service in another area, that might be more personally meaningful to me than to you.
Yeah.
But in your scenario, just because they got less of something doesn't do anything to undermine the basic premise that this is a beneficial thing.
Okay, so for you it would have to be like if someone gave service in all those ways and gotten like absolutely no
Got
fulfillment out of
nothing
it.
or felt diminished
Yeah.
by it.
Like it was taxing and for I guess we can describe it in many different ways. That's what it would take to be like less confident that maybe it's not true for someone
and
else.
I can't even fathom that.
Yeah.
Because if you describe that scenario or that person, those circumstances, I'm probably going to conclude that, well, they weren't really giving of themselves. They were looking for something, some payback, if you will, an immediate feel good, at least some thanks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure you've driven down the road before and someone's trying to move over in a lane of traffic. Maybe even someone that you've seen in your mirror from half a mile back. They could have gotten over because it's going from 2 lanes to 1, but instead they creep up to the very end to try to squeeze in.
I hate that.
I don't think any of us like it. And then you let
But
them.
I've done that too.
Yeah.
You let them in and they don't acknowledge it. Now
Yeah.
you kind of feel like,
Eh.
well, it would have been nice to
Exactly.
acknowledge it, but at the end of the day, that's not going to make me less likely to let someone in next time.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
of your behavior, that handicaps you. It's not going to handicap me, and it's not going to reduce my likeliness to be courteous to others, to recognize we live in community, to recognize that if God loves me at all, then I have to believe that he loves you just as much. Okay? I absolutely cannot put you above me from God's perspective. It's just vain. It puts me in God's place. Okay? And so I feel I have to try. No, I'm not going to treat you the same way I'm going to treat my wife. I've got a little more invested here, so on and so forth. But But when it comes to how people should be treated, and what, coming back to her, you know, what that does to you spiritually, we're all on the same plane.
Okay.
In many regards.
Okay. Well, we definitely went over 5 minutes, so I appreciate your guys' time, or your service, I guess you would say. I just have maybe a couple more questions, and we could be done. If you could imagine, and I know that you're saying it's hard to fathom, but
Lay out the scenario.
if we gave service but got zero fulfillment or zero enrichment to our soul, would you still do it?
I absolutely would.
Even if you got zero enrichment of your soul.
Yeah, because
That's the whole
well,
premise.
first of all,
get
definition of soul is something that I said maybe we need to define in the beginning when you threw that out. But
If there was no benefit to it,
it inherently makes me a more giving person, which is a good personality attribute. I can't lose being a good person. I can't. Now, granted, those efforts can totally blow up in my face sometimes. Okay, I picked up a desperate-looking hitchhiker before, and had them do damage to the interior of my car.
yeah.
Okay, and in hindsight, it's like, I wish I hadn't picked that person up. But it doesn't make me withdraw and say, well, service sucks. Okay.
It sounds as if service, there's more to it than regardless of the impact you make, whether it's good or bad, or even if you get no personal satisfaction from it. It seems like there's a foundational obligation, maybe.
Or core belief.
Yeah.
It says even if I can't measure it, it's a good thing. Okay? Even if I can't quantify it in the moment at that time, okay, recognize the benefit to my soul, to my person, it's still a good thing because it's an act of unselfishness. And it's hard to fathom that not being a good thing. Will it always have positive results? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I have one last question. If you give service in some way, and regardless of whether it's impactful or it helps or hinders any of them or you, or that, I guess what I'm asking is the enrichment you get from service getting something back from? Is that maybe a selfish motive?
Kind of depends on how you define selfish. So we try to get sleep every night, and we take in nourishment, and those are selfish, life-sustaining things, basic life-sustaining things. Is that selfish? Well, I guess it's taking care of self, yes. But at some point after you have provided your basic physical well-being, now there are opportunities to help other people with their physical and mental well-being.
Well, I also believe that a certain amount of self-care is important so that you can provide service, care.
Yeah, if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be of much use to others.
Yeah. Do you think there may be a distinguishment between levels of selfishness? So even though,
well, sure, nothing's like black and white.
Yeah, it'd be very different to say, I am doing this service because I feel like, maybe I'm doing a service to someone because they're loaded and they got a bunch of money and I might get some benefit out of the friendship I have with them. And then it's another thing to say, well, I'm giving service to this person because they're in need, or they may
Yeah, there's a
they can
massive difference there,
Yeah,
because when
and
you're
I
helping
get-
the person because he's loaded,
yeah
you're not looking to help them, you're looking to enrich yourself.
yeah
And none of us are perfect. None of us can ever be
Totally,
100% selfless
Yeah.
in our generosity toward others, okay? But again,
Again, yeah, just the fact that I know even some service that's going to make me feel better, then that's a bit of selfishness right there. I know this is good for me, so why wouldn't I do something that's
Yeah.
good for me?
I don't think it's
like
a
eating
nowhere.
your,
It's
like
not
eating
like
your
it's-
broccoli.
Yeah, it's
Well,
not like it's
Yeah.
selfish. It's bad.
I would definitely make a distinction between types of selfishness. I mean, obviously, that what you're describing there could be described as selfish, but it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not
as-
the same as. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that makes it more of an interesting question to say, if I never got that fulfillment back, if it was completely unfulfilling, would I still do it? And if the answer is yes, I'd still do it, then there's a deeper meaning of,
Yeah.
I'll do it because it will likely lead to a better society or something like that,
Yeah.
which could benefit you ultimately too.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I think
Yeah,
it's hard to
but
wrap
yeah.
my brain around the
Yeah.
concept that someone being selfless in regards to others never is personally fulfilling for someone. I can see where some people get more fulfillment out of it than others. I can see where some people have a series of bad experiences from that effort. But again, it's almost inconceivable that someone can act in a selfless manner toward other people, and they never feel like it makes them a better person. That they'd be a better person if all they did is look out for number one, and I got mine, good luck with yours. History has lots of famous personalities who seem at least to have not had any socially redeeming value, who always looked out for themselves. Some succeeded wildly, some didn't. But what's interesting is how many of those people in the end were happy and fulfilled and reflected on their life as, yeah, I did it the right way. History's littered with people full of regrets and misery through their selfish acts, whether you're thinking of people like Howard Hughes or whomever. Okay.
I have one last question. I swear I'm done.
Okay.
So I hope you guys getting some enjoyment out of this. Okay. What do you think? How do I think of how to ask this? How can we separate like good selfish and bad selfish? What is the thing that separates?
It's all degrees. I don't think you totally separate it. None of us are capable of perfect selfless behavior. Okay, we are by
Unless your
nature.
Mother Teresa or something.
Huh?
Unless your Mother Teresa.
Well, even then, I'm sure that,
Yeah.
that she had her moments of selfishness.
Yeah.
Okay, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
She may have been a bear at the dinner table,
Yeah.
grabbing all the taters first. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Do you think that getting fulfillment from service and doing it for that reason maybe is a bad thing?
Say that again?
If you
Doing it for what reason?
for that enrichment,
Oh, that's a bad thing?
is that a bad thing?
No, I don't think it's
No.
any more bad than saying I need
Okay.
sleep makes me a healthier person. Eating
Okay.
a balanced diet makes me a healthier person. Caring about my
Yeah.
fellow man makes me spiritually more healthy.
So if there is things that we can do that are selfish but that aren't bad, what is this distinguishing factor that separates good selfish behavior from bad selfish behavior? Like how
When it's
How do we decide?
primarily for the gain of someone other than yourself.
The motivation. You're back to motivation.
When they are likely to receive more benefit than I do, however you measure.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So the way to distinguish if an action or a choice is selfish in a good way would be that it's not at the expense of someone else.
I'd go even further and say that it's done primarily for the benefit of someone else, okay, to the exclusion or ignorance of what direct benefit I may get out of it.
Okay, so let's pick an example. So eating broccoli, how does that benefit someone else besides
It doesn't.
you?
And it's not an act of service to anyone else.
Is eating broccoli bad?
It's
For you
neither
it is.
good, inherently good or bad,
Okay.
unless I am eating it excessively, or unless I know that I'm allergic to broccoli and I'm going to vomit all over the place, and so I deliberately eat broccoli at my next door neighbor's house because I hate my next door neighbor, and here's how I'm going to pay him back. So
Yeah. So like, let's say, all right, I'm gonna eat dinner. What I eat, like, is me eating dinner going to benefit somebody else? And if I determine it's not gonna have any factor, would I be like, you know what I mean? Oh, that would be like out of the realm of what you would consider good or bad. It's not really. It's like amoral or something like that.
there's no judgment to be associated with that.
Okay.
And much of your daily living isn't about serving someone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay? How much do you sleep a night? The typical person, they say 8 hours. That's a third of your day.
That would definitely affect other people if I got poor sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
You spend time eating. Most of us have jobs where we do the bidding of others for financial gain, so we can provide that shelter where we sleep comfortably, where we can buy our food, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But in the course of doing all of these things, just think about going to the store to buy that broccoli. I can be rude and cut in front of someone to get that last bunch of broccoli, or I can wait until that person standing there debating, well, do I want that last bunch of broccoli or not? I'll just pause, and if they take it, fine, and if they don't, I'll take it. Tiny little service thing. But again, it's all about me putting someone else before myself, or at least at a minimum treating them as an equal. And
If I was in their shoes.
And if I'm treating them as an equal, that means I'm not any more entitled to that last bunch of broccoli than they are. As a matter of fact, since they're already standing there, then it seems incumbent upon me to pause and see if they want it.
Or if we got there at the same time, we could barter. Do you want? I'll just take a third of it.
My recipe calls for 7 ounces of broccoli. How much does yours call for? Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
But you just can't lose. I mean, just being courteous and polite to someone is a service, if you think about it. Is it as big as going down to Houston with your John boat and rescuing someone trapped in the second story of their house? Well, probably not as visibly outward. Big give of yourself, since you took the time to drive down there. You put your life in your boat at risk. You consume gas and other resources to help that person. But it no less invalidates or makes that act of courtesy in the produce section any less important. And it's all part of a pattern. So life is a process, and as you go through it, you can be stagnant as a human. You can erode and rot as a human, however you want to define that, or you can always strive for something better. And the striving for something better isn't necessarily more money, bigger house, bigger car, but a better human being, which ultimately comes down to how you're interacting with other human beings, how you are a functioning member of society, whether it's your apartment complex, whether it's your neighborhood, whether it's your city, your state, your nation.
I think one of the big factors is empathy. So if people fail to see their neighbor or see someone as themselves, if they can't put themselves in other people's shoes, if they, for whatever reason, whether it's past experiences or whatever the case may be, if they can't empathize and understand that, okay, if I was them, what I want to happen. If they can do that, that's really where that occurs, where they can't give service, or it's more difficult to give service because they don't understand.
They don't see
We're
the
all in
need
this.
Yeah.
to begin with, because when you lack empathy, you don't see other people's hurt and need.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to stir the pot, but I mean, you could look at like a very conservative person versus a very liberal person, and they're going to go about their idea of service in different ways. I don't know that it necessarily diminishes the service itself, but so you can have all kinds of conflicting.
Yeah, I think I understand.
But yeah, but maybe that's really about the act itself, and
That's-
not the.
I think I know what you're saying. So,
intention.
like, an example would be, if you are a person that thinks that the government should be heavily involved in recovery efforts of victims of Harvey, versus someone else who thinks that it's really the people that don't need the government overseeing it, and we can do it ourselves.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's different pathways to the same desired result.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what ultimately matters is,
Are you helping anybody?
are you helping?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, with that,
All right, guys.
I'll be
Well, it's
on.
interesting
Appreciate
you
it.
mentioned empathy. So
Yeah.
do you read sociology and psychology?
I've taken a few courses in college. It's been a little bit, but I think I retained most of it.
Well, I was going to say, I can't remember the professor's name. She does a lot of research work. Wrote a book a year and a half ago. She's been studying the impact of social media and portable devices and what that is doing to young people. Something good, something bad, is it neutral? And one of the conclusions she has reached is that she's seeing diminished capacity for empathy in young people as a result of that. Now you can dig into it as deep as you want to say, okay, where's the cause and effect there? But
Yeah, I think.
when you mentioned empathy, I thought of her work,
Yeah.
and
I think I would agree with that, because I mean, all you have to do is just compare the everyday interactions you have in your life versus the comment section, and the amount of empathy you would have for certain things is just it's vastly different. So I think what it comes down to is the way you would behave when there's little to no repercussions for what you say online is very different from the repercussions you would see in a small town of 1,000 people. And so that lack of repercussions, or gain, I guess you can say the gain or loss people are
Experiencing as a result of their thoughts, words, actions, deeds.
they just, here's what I think, and it's not really listening or seeing how it affects someone else. I think it's one
Causes
piece
you
to it.
Maybe lose some of that. Yeah.
I mean, because it almost feels like sometimes you comment on something and you're just throwing it into the void, throwing it into the thousands of other comments, and it really lacks a sense of impact, a sense of, like if we were having this,
accountability in part.
yeah,
But there's the other
Yeah.
issue of just face-to-face personal interaction.
yeah.
We were able to read each other's eyes, our body language, everything else. So we were much more deeply connected in this conversation than if we'd been texting back and forth.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we're texting back and forth, if you say, I'm feeling sad, I won't relate to that in the same manner as if in the course of our conversation you reveal a sadness to me, and,
Yeah.
and I'm able to. So
Yeah, that's true.
it's just so impersonal, and empathy is a highly, highly personal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
It's like when you're texting, you can just walk away. I don't.
There you go. Anywho.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed the
fun.
talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Have a good day.